I'd like to introduce you to Natascha Schwanke. She is the Deputy Head of the DW Akademie, which is Germany's leading provider of international media training. Its objective really is to strengthen free and vital media environments around the world, as well as individual journalists and citizen organizations. Welcome, Natascha. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
The theme, of course, of this year's Global Media Forum is innovation and disruption. It's coming after probably the biggest disruptor that you and I and any one of us have ever seen, the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is a good opportunity, really, to talk about this crisis initiative that the DW Akademie has launched in more than a dozen countries. What's it about?
It's about strengthening the resilience of media ecosystems all over the world, especially in the global south. And the idea was that it became quite apparent, of course, during the pandemic, which isn't over yet, that media are essential in fighting this pandemic and fighting crisis. If you want to overcome a crisis, you need to have reliable information so people can make informed decisions. So it needed strong media, and strong media are quite under pressure throughout the world, unfortunately. And the pressure on the media systems itself was growing through the pandemic, mainly, of course, through the economic pressure there is. So this initiative for resilience was in the assumption that, of course, it's about strengthening media after the pandemic or through the pandemic. It's also looking forwards and saying, okay, this is a huge crisis, but it won't be the last. And how can we try to build strong media that will sustain another crisis and that also will be able to fulfill their role in a very good way to inform society?
What are the main challenges standing in the way of building stronger media around the world?
Oh, there are several. I think that, of course, the very obvious one is that in a lot of countries there's political pressure. The spaces for freedom of speech are shrinking, and we can see that in some countries regimes are using the pandemic as an excuse maybe to shrink the freedom of speech. So that's one of the main issues we have. But then the other is, of course, economic pressure there is, and it became even more apparent because the media who live from revenue that are now really fighting in the situation, and they have been already. Many media throughout the world, especially local media, are already in difficult economic situation, of course the traditional media especially, and this was a very, very hard time for them.
One of the sessions we had today was talking about the importance of working with, I guess, with local media, working with its own community to fundraise and to get funds, which engages them with the community and helps to overcome, I guess, skepticism about the media. Is that something you have been able to contribute to and see in the communities you're working in?
Yes, it happens, and what you can also see, and the models are very individual, of course, depending on the country and the community, how people will actually go and just give a little bit of their income to subsidize media through listener clubs or other initiatives has always been there, and we've been trying to learn from. So what we do is we don't go out there and tell people how they can build a strong, economically strong media company, because we don't know how to do that in Colombia or Malawi or Sudan. But we try to bring together the people who do now know how it can work, and to give them a bit of room to experiment and to then share the good news in the sense of, sharing best practice. And what we can see is that there's also been a huge amount of solidarity among the media fraternity or media communities in a lot of these countries where the situation is quite dire. There's an example in Uganda where a local community radio was closed down, and the journalists in the capital city, in Kampala, they got together and they funded for a weekly newspaper that could then report on the situation in this special region.
And how does this affect media literacy in the communities? Because we've been hearing a lot today about the importance of informing users and making them better aware and less susceptible to fake news and to misinformation. How do these projects that really work on a community level go towards helping that?
They're really important. We believe that media and information literacy is a key capacity for societies in not only the future, but now already. And I think we've already, all of us have become very conscious of that in the pandemic with the amount of misinformation and disinformation. And it's become a huge challenge, but it lies on the responsibility of each and every citizen to be able to understand how to distinguish what is true and what is false, and what do I, how am I going to spread this or not? And also, am I going to go and stand up for my right of free speech? Am I going to do something? Am I even aware of what my right is? And how can I maybe come together with others to actually defend that? So all of these aspects of media and information literacy have been important. They're getting more important. And what we can see now is also one of the, it's almost cynical to say, positive effects of the pandemic. There's a lot more awareness about the relevance of media and information literacy with political leaders, for example. It's not something that's just, it's not nice to have, but it's really, really important to also take the users into the equation and not only say, okay, what do we need to do with media or frameworks?
It's been super interesting to talk to you, and very nice to end on a silver lining as you just did. Thank you very much, Natascha Schwanke, Deputy Head of the DW Akademie.